Hello and welcome to another session of Let's Learn German. I hope you revised the previous lessons and you're now ready to learn something new. In this session, we are going to do a topic called negation. As you can see, I have written negation 1 here, which means that there are several other aspects to this main aspect. Today, we will do in this segment the part of negation called nicht. Nicht, somewhat in English, means not. For example, in English we use sentences like I am not coming, are you not going, I am not eating, I cannot go, I don't want to go. So, these are examples of negation where you negate or don't carry out a task. In the same way, in German also there are different kinds of negation. Here we are focusing on the two main aspects of negation, including the word nicht, which is the sentence negation and the partial negation. Now, if you look into this aspect, sentence negation, there is a sentence here which goes like this: Ich frage den Professor nicht. Now, if you look at this sentence, you are already familiar with the structure. You know that ich is here the first person singular pronoun, which means I. Frage means to question, to ask, derived from the verb fragen. Den, you know, is the definite article in accusative, and Professor is the masculine noun here. Now, look at the position of nicht here. It is almost at the end of the sentence after the noun. So, when nicht stands after the noun in the sentence, that means the entire sentence is negated. In comparison to this sentence, let us look at this sentence, which is partial negation. Here we have full negation, here we have partial negation. In partial negation, look at the position of nicht. Ich frage nicht den Professor. As you can see here, the position of nicht varies. In the previous sentence, nicht is at the end. However, here it is between the verb and the noun. Therefore, it is called a partial negation, because here it means I am not asking the professor. So, the sentence can mean something else. So, with respect to the position of nicht, either at almost of the end of the sentence or in the middle of the sentence, the change of meaning can take place. Now, we would move to another aspect of negation, which includes noun and article. Now, we would do another aspect of negation, which is called negative article or negative article. Now, in this we are going to look how a negative article is formed in the nominative case or the subject case. Here, as you can see, I have written some sentences which are K or K plus unbestimmter Artikel or K plus indefinite article. You know what indefinite articles are. The indefinite articles in nominative are ein, einer, ein, where ein refers to masculine, einer refers to feminine, and ein refers to neutral or neutrum. Now, how do we make a negative article? Here, to make a negative article is quite easy. We just add the letter K or K to ein, which makes it kein. Now, we add K or K to einer and makes it keiner, and we add K or K to ein to make it kein. So, here we have three negative articles where masculine is for kein, feminine keiner, and neutrum or neutral kein. However, if you see, there is keiner here, which is in the plural category. But if you remember, there is no indefinite article for plural. However, in the case of negation, there is a negative article for plural which is called keine. So, we have here two kine, if you see, and two keine. However, this can be a little confusing. So, always remember that one kind here belongs to the masculine gender, the other kind belongs to the neutral gender, and the one kind is in the feminine gender, and the last one here belongs to the plural. So, out of 4 negative article, 3 of them are in singular and 1 of them is in plural. Since it is not easy to remember this concept, it is always helpful to learn the article, which I mean the definite article, and then from the definite article learn how to derive the indefinite article. Now, we will see some examples on how indefinite articles are negated or how negative articles are made. Now, we would look at some examples to see how negative article or negative articles are made in German in the nominative case or the subject case. Let us look at these sentences. Ist das ein Buch? Nein, das ist kein Buch. Now, when you look at this sentence, you will see that the indefinite article ein is along with the noun Buch. You know that the noun Buch belongs to the neutral gender, that is why we have an N here. Now, the answer is a negation. Ist das ein Buch? Nein, das ist kein Buch. And we just now learnt that to make a negation in the neutral article, we have to use ka plus ein, which is kein. In the same way, if you look at the sentence number 2, ist das eine Tasche? Here, Tasche has the feminine article die and the indefinite article which corresponds to the is eine, and the negation answer is nein, das ist keine Tasche, where ka plus eine is the combination. Ist das ein Computer? Now, we know that computer belongs to the masculine gender category, that is why we have an M here, and the article which goes with the computer is der and the indefinite article is ein. Here we have the answer nein, das ist kein Computer. Now, look at these sentences. The sentence starts with sind das Taschen. As you can see, I have written here plural. As you know that sind is the plural marker for the third person plural category. So, we have sind das Taschen, and we know the negative article for plural is keine, so which is written here. So, we have here nein, das sind keine Taschen. Sind das Bücher? Nein, das sind keine Bücher. Sind das Computer? Nein, das sind keine Computer. Also, please see that the nouns which are singular here, for example, the plural noun here Taschen has got its counterpart here, which is the singular noun Tasche. Bücher, which is plural here, here we have the word Buch, which is a singular form. Computer, which is here plural, has got the singular form computer. In the previous session, if you remember, we learnt the plural forms and the singular forms of these nouns, and certain nouns change their form in plural and certain nouns do not change their form in plural. So, we have here two nouns Tasche and Buch which change their form in plural, and the noun computer which does not change its form in plural. Therefore, while making the negative article in nominative with plural as well as singular, you should also make sure that you are writing the correct plural form of the noun. So, when we look at these sentences, we learn that how we can learn negation by combining the indefinite article with ka, and also while making a negative article we should also make sure that we are using the correct plural form as well as we are using the correct verb form. If the verb is in singular, then there would be a sein, and in its conjugated form, that is ist, and if it is in plural it will have the form sind, which is the conjugated form of the verb sein. Now, we will do some exercises in the other segment and see if we can learn more about the negation in the nominative case. Now, one of our student would come and do the exercises, and we would see if the answers given by the student are right or wrong. Now, let us look at the answers given by the student and see if they are right or wrong. Ist das ein Telefon? Nein, das ist kein Telefon. The answer is right. Here, the student wrote the correct indefinite article ein, looking at the gender of the noun, which is the neutral gender, and also wrote the correct negative article kein, which is the combination of, as you know, ka and ein. Number 2. Ist das eine Küche? Küche means kitchen. Now, look at the other part of the sentence. Nein, das ist keine Küche. Now, the student here has given the correct answer. The student wrote here the correct indefinite article, which is feminine as it is written here, and also wrote the correct negative article, which is keine, which is a combination of kein plus eine. Number 3. Ist das ein Auto? Nein, das ist kein Auto. Here the student wrote the correct indefinite article by taking the answer from the article which is mentioned here, which is the neutral article or das, and also wrote the correct negative article here kein, which is ka plus ein. Ist das ein Pullover? Nein, das ist kein Pullover. Here also the student wrote first the correct indefinite article by writing it from the article which is mentioned here, which is the masculine article there, and also wrote the correct negative article kein, which is combination of ka and ein. Now, look at this sentence. Sind das Lampen? Here, though there is a blank, the student didn't write an indefinite article because, as I told you, indefinite article are only possible for nouns in singular, and here we have a noun in plural. Therefore, indefinite article is not written here. Therefore, the student left the blank empty, which is actually the right answer. And also, as I told you, in negative article is possible in the case of plural, and the negative article for plural in nominative is keine, and the student wrote the correct answer. Sind das Studenten. Here also the student, like in the previous sentence, chose not to write an indefinite article, because as I told you, indefinite articles are only possible in case of singular noun, and here we have a plural noun, and plural noun never take an indefinite article. However, they take a negative article which is keine, which the student wrote here right. Therefore, this answer is also right. Now, let us do another exercise based on the negative article. Our student would come and do the exercise, and later we would see if the answers are right or wrong. Now, one of our student would come and write the respective article in plural or in singular, and we will see if the answer given by the student matches to the answer given by the previous student, and then we can also understand if the students understood the task effectively. Now, let us look at the answers given by our students. Our first student wrote the negative article keine, and our other student wrote the plural form here. Both answers are correct. Häuser is the plural form of the singular noun house, and as you know, the negative article for plural is keine. So, the students have written the right answers. Now, let us look at this word Tisch, which means table. Our first student wrote the negative article kein, and the other student wrote the gender of this noun, which is masculine, which is there, and both answers are correct because the masculine gender has the indefinite article ein, and when combined with ka makes it the negative article kein. Now, let us look at this word Schule, which means school, and our first student wrote the right answer keine, and our second student wrote the correct article or the gender for this noun, which is feminine, and as you know, the negative article for feminine is keine. In the same way, Universität, which means university, carries the article die, which is for feminine, and here our student wrote the correct negative article. So, this answer is also correct. Fahrrad, which means a bicycle, here our first student wrote the right negative article kein, and our second student wrote the correct article of the noun, which is neutral. Laptop, a very common word, here our first student wrote the correct negative article kein, and our second student wrote the correct gender for that noun which is masculine, which is their laptop. Now moving on to the other nouns. You are familiar with this noun Äpfel, and our first student wrote the correct negative article for this plural noun which our second student wrote, which is keine, and our student then wrote the correct negative article for the word baby, which is kein, and our second student wrote the article for this noun which is neutral, which is das baby. Now here the word cafe, which means coffee, our first student wrote the correct negative article kein, and our second student wrote the correct gender marker for this noun which is masculine, their cafe. Here our first student wrote for the noun cola the correct negative article keine, and our second student here wrote the correct article for this noun which is feminine, the cola. Now moving on to another familiar word, sandwich. Our first student wrote the correct negative article for this noun which is keine, and our second student wrote the correct article for this noun which is feminine, the sandwich. And for this last noun our student wrote the correct negative article kein, and our second student wrote the correct article for this noun which is the masculine article, which is there. Now as you can see, our students wrote the correct answers. Like our students, you too can write correct answers and learn the negative article very easily if you follow the rules which were taught to you in this session. Please remember, whenever you learn a noun in German language, please learn the noun with its article and its plural form. Only then you can easily understand the indefinite article as well as do the negative article. In the next segment, we will do another part of negation, and I would request you that please revise this session really well as the previous sessions. And before saying goodbye, I always say auf Wiedersehen, tschüss.